We are back. All I Ever Wanted podcast. We got Braeden. He came back today because you guys had a lot of questions. And, I appreciate you coming back, my man. Your videos have been doing probably the best on our channel so far, the shorts.
Awesome.
A lot of people want to know about bodybuilding. The big one was, enhancements, PEDs and stuff like that. And, a guy like you, that's valuable knowledge because we like to keep people... We like the honesty of it.
Absolutely.
We want to keep people safe at the same time. We on this show, will preface this by saying we're not condoning, promoting anything. We are educating like anything else. You can make a big fucking mistake in your life in bad finances. You can do the same thing when you're taking your health in order.
Absolutely.
So I think before we get into that, I just want a couple minutes here now that I've been working out at your gym. So if you haven't watched the first one, Braeden and his few of his friends, they're just multi-levels of entrepreneurism. You guys, do any of you just do one thing?
No.
See, that's the part I love the most, because everything else on this channel is all about that entrepreneur life, that
Absolutely.
1% life, and just seeing how you interact day to day. Between running your gym, running your supplement stores, your side investments, your shoe collections, and shit like that, you just don't stop. So before we get into any of that other stuff, what drove you, where do you think the turning point was for you that made you realize you're not doing that 9-to-5 shit? I want people to hear that before we get into any of the bodybuilding, because I think that bridges that gap between people trying to figure out, what am I doing wrong? What is everybody else doing so right? Because if you're 9-to-5ing it, there's no wealth that ever comes from that.
For sure. I think for me, it was just the comfortability of it. I don't like that. I don't like being super comfortable. I like being uncomfortable. And I got a business degree. I did the whole thing, go to university, did 5 years, played junior hockey, played university hockey. And when I finished my degree, I went and worked in the corporate world as a purchaser with my business degree, a junior purchaser. And,
so you went along the path that would make sense.
And to be honest, like, a lot of people would come out of university and be like, that's a pretty good gig. Like, had my own office, good salary, and realistically, at the end of the day, when you go into that office by yourself every day, punch the time clock, it's like, I'm, making money, but I'm paying somebody else's bills. The reality of it. And I've never been the guy, we'll call it a rule follower or that kind of things. I'm very outside the lines in everything I do, and I always have been, even as a young kid, whether that was getting a little bit of trouble or you know what I mean. But
he was the scrapper on his team in hockey.
Yeah, I played junior. I was just laughing the other day. Somebody posted my penalty minutes from my second year of junior.
Penalty minutes. How many did you have in a season?
I had 260 penalty minutes in 35 games in junior.
Wow, that's Probert numbers.
So I was my average was like 6.2 minutes per game. I averaged that season.
Penalty per period. I like that.
That kind of speaks a little bit about me. And I guess when it came to that side of things, it was just, punch the clock at 9 a.m., work till 5, and it just felt, I didn't enjoy it. There was no passion in it, and I knew that at some point or another, I was going to not be happy with the position I was in, and I could already feel that's kind of starting, so it wasn't even 6 months, and I just decided to walk away from it.
Wow. In that little space there, did you ever say, oh, shit, I'm making someone else rich, my boss is abusing me, all that bullshit you hear nowadays? Did you complain about it?
No, it was just like I had a feeling over time. It was like, I can't do this forever. I will be a miserable human and be in a place that I cannot stand to be in. And I also, like, on the flip side of that, I wanted more for myself and my family, right? I had a long-term girlfriend at the time that I knew probably would end up becoming my wife, and there's only so much growth opportunity in those areas. There's a ceiling. There's a ceiling everywhere you go, right? Whereas I feel like feel like with entrepreneurship, there is no ceiling. Now there's obstacles and challenges, and I'm still going through them, as you know. And
whereas you guys saw in the first podcast, the shit that he went through just to get the equipment. Forget about opening the doors, building it out, getting your permits, coming up with the money. You didn't even get your equipment.
100%, and that's the stuff, right? Like as stressful as that was. Yeah. I would rather be doing 18 days in Arkansas, sweating my ass off and miserable than waking up at 9 a.m. to go to an office job that I just despise.
Today, next week, next month,
forever.
Next
it's
year.
The same thing, day after day, right? And I don't like...
People call that comfort and security.
That's just it. And I don't like the tedious same thing day after day. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I'm a bodybuilding coach and I have very similar days day to day, but every check-in I get is different. Every response I give an athlete is different. Every move I make within one of my athletes' plans is different, right? We have different things to deal with at the gym every day. It's every piece of what I do is different every day. So I really enjoy that part of it, and I think I was craving that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I walked away, and granted, I went right back into a corporate world job, but at least it was something I was passionate about that I knew was a stepping stone to something bigger. So I had a friend who was a manager at Good Life, and I had been a personal trainer. I had already been doing some online coaching and helping friends on the side. And I was just like, you know what, in the meantime, let's do this. So I went to Good Life, and I was a personal trainer there for a year and a half. Same thing though, same song and dance, right? You're in a corporate world. They don't care about the service you provide. They don't care about what you're doing. They just care about the sales you're making and the numbers you're bringing into the business. So again, it felt very much like I was paying somebody else's bills and working for somebody else, because I was. And there was another piece to that, me leaving there, which it sounds super arrogant, but I believe I'm good at what I do, and I'm very passionate about it. And when I walk into a gym floor at the busiest gym in Edmonton, with the largest personal training roster in Edmonton, and a lot of these people had just taken a weekend course and don't really know what they're doing. Ooh. And I've been working with them for a year, and I still see them taking somebody's health in their hands and doing something that I would call, for lack of a better term, dangerous. Like rounding your spine and excessively loading it on a deadlift. That's going to cause problems over the long term. Maybe not today, but it will over time. And this is probably one of the biggest risks I ever took. I was in the middle of building my first home, and I was about to take on a mortgage for the first time in my life, and I quit that job. So I had no income. I got home one day, and I was talking to my wife, and I had gotten to the point where I was bitching a little bit about it, that like, I don't know how much long I can do this. I just don't like it here anymore.
And you almost got financially tied into being strapped to it.
Yeah, to be honest, I would have rather left and not had any money than continued to do that and have the money coming from it, the paycheck. So I was just like, you know what? I had a conversation with a lot of my athletes who, again, as you learn things over time, everyone's like, yeah, I'll come with you. I'll do the online coaching side of thing. You can go do your freelance personal training, and I'll come with you. And I had a large roster of people, and like nobody came, right? Yeah. So it's like, nobody's here to save me. I got to figure this out. And that's kind of when I branched into the world of online coaching and seen a little bit of success. And it just snowballed from there, from the effort you put in, right? And I think what stood out for me was just the passion I provided day after day. I woke up and I knew that I had to push myself to do something and get somewhere. And my passion fueled that. Because I knew what the vision was, but it wasn't necessarily like I knew how to get there. It was just passion that'll let carry it. And that kind of brought me to starting my first coaching business, which progressed and grew into a corporation where I have coaches under me now. And then that grew into the gym. And everything I've done basically at this point is kind of centered around the fitness industry per se. Mm-hmm. And the next goal for me is realistically reaching beyond that and stepping into other areas. Because I do think also there are ceilings within the fitness industry. Right?
Absolutely.
Like you trade a lot for what I do personally, and I have no problems with this. I love it, and I'll never not do it. But you do trade time for money, right? And realistically, there's only so many check-ins I can do in a week. There's only so many check-ins I can do in a day, and each athlete is paying me a certain amount of money per month. So unless I somehow get more time in my day or more time in my week,
good luck with that.
Which doesn't really work out in this world, there's ceilings to it, right? And I'm not sure those ceilings get me where I want to be long-term. So that's where the other vision comes from, and expanding to other things as well.
Very nice. Hey, that was a good sum of what was going there, and a perfect segue, because you were just talking about fitness and your gym. And this is the last thing I'll touch on before we get into the Q&A portion of it. Just working around your athletes, the amount of respect that they have for the team that you've built. When you walk on the gym floor, it's not like a, hey, ass slap, fist bump. It's the game levels up. Everyone in there respects what you've done, and that's not something I've ever seen anywhere else in really the fitness industry. Mm-hmm. A lot of people will name drop, oh, I know that guy, yep. Or, we went drinking. Mm-hmm. But the floor, when you or Ty or Dylan get out there, everybody's energy goes way up. So whatever you brought to that table, wow, everybody at the gym is better. Then none of them will even doubt it. Mm-hmm. For the moment you bring up any of them, they don't even know what to say. They're just inspired and motivated by what you guys do. And I've noticed that just in the 4 months I've been there.
For sure, and I appreciate that, because that's something that I think is a strength per se that I have, Dill has, Tyler has, is creating a culture, creating a community, and it started, like you said, it started with the team that we built, the bodybuilding team that we built. Like Ty's a perfect example, right? And Dill's no different, but Ty was a young kid, man, like 20 years old when I started working with him. And he was just a bodybuilder that worked his ass off day in, day out, and had passion for it. and wasn't happy with what had happened to him at that point with bodybuilding, and wanted to make a change. No different than what we just talked about with business, right? The business is just the body at this point in time.
Yes.
And so Ty hired me, and from day one, I seen a kid that just cared a lot and would work for his goals. And we're talking about a kid that paid his way through university, flipping Jordans and stuff like that.
I love that shit.
He's built on the hustle, right? And you see it anytime you interact with him. And I knew from day one, and did I know that it would end up being this, where we'd be best friends and running a business together? No, I didn't, but I knew that something would come out of it eventually. And he was one of the first coaches I hired on, and he's the only one that's still on the team from way back then, the original crew I hired on. Because we have cycled through a good handful of coaches, because it's another piece when you become the owner of the business and you're
vested in everything you do and everyone.
They're contractors, right? They're not technically my employees, but they run their own businesses within my business. But on the flip side of that, I look at it now as we run the business together. And realistically, when I bring you onto this team, I want you to represent something bigger and possess kind of the same things that I believe I do. Yeah. And you wouldn't be surprised, but a lot of people would be surprised when it's like you hire somebody on, and it's like, this person's got it. And then very, very quickly, that got it diminishes, and it was all smoke and mirrors.
Oh, yeah.
And they have a very small roster. They have a very small roster, and you give them a year and a half to grow that, and you give them all the tools, and they just can't. Or they're scared to leave situations that will make them better in the long run, but seem scary now, and people just don't jump all over that. And I'm the type of guy that I'll lead you to the water, but if you ain't going to drink, I'm not going to force you to drink, right?
Won't even ask twice.
That's just it. So I give people opportunity. At the end of the day, if you just can't seize it, there's going to be somebody to replace you that will, right? And that's one of the cool things about Ty's. That's never been a thing. He's always been at the top of the food chain and fighting for his meal and so forth, which I love to see, and that's why we get along so well, and it's grown. And then, like you said, going back to the community aspect, I think that's something we all do very well. It started with our bodybuilding team and our coaching team, and I do believe also that's what's kind of bred success, like you said, at the gym, is the community we've built and the atmosphere we've created, where people walk into that gym and they know it's time to train. Whether you're literally a lifestyle person just trying to lose 50 pounds and you're not a bodybuilder, well, we have our personal trainers there that I would argue they've already leveled themselves up by being in that atmosphere, right? Oh, yeah. So it's super cool to see on a day-to-day basis.
The number of young entrepreneurs you have in there, I've never seen that anywhere else. Everywhere else you go, and there's no problem with employees. We need employees. But when your team, your family, your gym, whatever you want to call it, has attracted entrepreneurs as well. So you already know that they understand leveling up every day is the only concept in their head. Forget about just being on the gym floor. These are people with online businesses. These are people with a salary job, but putting in 4 hours a day to be bigger, better all the damn time. And I'm sitting there like, holy shit, you guys got an army. You literally have an army of the next generation
100%.
Of 1%ers. And no one else is going to understand why it is they got there. But you see these people day in and day out. You understand what the word like millionaire or rich is just numbers. We throw this shit out. No one knows what it means. These motherfuckers are there 12, 14, 16 hours a day at 20 years old. They don't even know what they're going to receive. 100%. But I do, because I've seen all that shit. Yep. These are the next me, my friends, stuff like that. And the fact that you guys are culturing this, the pride you guys must have. I know you don't pat yourself on the back very often, but you literally have an army of the next generation of 1%ers, which is what intrigues us. So, you know what? I'm going to leave that there.
Absolutely. Good
Let's get into these questions. So we put up the ability for you to ask Braeden questions on our social media. Producer Mac will write it down here in case you don't know what it is. These are just going to be generic as they came in. It's not going to be in a progression of this. Let's
do it.
I will preface this again by saying if you have an issue with any type of sports enhancement, the chemical side of things, I'm not worried about your personal opinion, but if this bothers you, turn it off right now.
Absolutely.
He's going to be honest. He's not here to sell shit.
Absolutely.
He's here to help us, help our audience learn and do it. What did you say last time? None of this shit is safe.
Absolutely not.
But if you're going to do it, which people are going to, they need
100%.
to know the safest. Not safe, safest. Are we understood here?
Not removing risk, reducing it.
Exactly. We're going to reduce it like we do everything else. Just like we don't want you guys buying a house with the wrong knowledge, because then you're going to be broke for 3 decades. All right. So here we go. Oh, the first one's actually pretty simple, and you may have already answered it. When did the vision goal to have a gym come?
So that was something for me that I actually wanted a long time, and people don't really know this, and you might not even know this, but this vision had kind of started when I was actually working at Good Life. And it was something I knew I wanted because of that culture that I spoke about earlier in this conversation, that I didn't like the feel of it. I didn't like the corporate atmosphere that was coming into a fitness setting. And I wanted something different.
The sales bullshit.
It's not who I am. And it's like, you should be here because you want to fucking change. It's not like you should be here because I convinced you have to change. And that was the kind of environment I felt like I was in. So I wanted something bigger, and it just worked out in that way that, my friend who I was working with at the gym that I had mentioned got me the job, had changed somebody's life. He was a personal trainer as well, had changed somebody's life who we became really good friends with. And he was a young entrepreneur with some money. And the three of us had a conversation. It was like, we should do something bigger and better here, and we could have a really, really successful thing going. And so we started working on it. We built a big business plan for it. We spent a lot of time in meetings going over stuff. And we were kind of at a point that we were about to start negotiating between two properties to snag. We had basically cut all our POs for equipment, and that was just a cool position to be in, because I guess it was one of those things where we were kind of managing partners, and the other partner was more so a financial backing and security in the finance side with finance degrees and stuff like that. So he was going to run the number side of things. We were just going to manage the gym, pick out all the equipment with our knowledge, and use our skills that we had at that time.
Everybody doing their perfect
Absolutely.
job. Yeah.
And it was a perfect world, one might say, in that instance. And then COVID happened. So we were kind of right there. And I'm a very, very risk-tolerant person. So I seen an opportunity with it myself. So did my one partner. And it was like, I want to do this still. And we'll keep our doors open when everybody else closes. We'll eat the fines. We'll do what we need to give people a place to train. And they'll come from every corner of the city to train, because we'll be the only place they can train. And that culture we talked about that we built, I wanted to bring that there, where people just, training wasn't an option, right? And to this day, I still think it would have been very lucrative. Yeah, we've had pushback from governments and stuff like that, and fought all the stuff that we would have needed to fight. But I was down to do it because I believed in the vision of it. Unfortunately, my one partner, like I said, he was a finance guy and kind of came from the banking world, and he was a little more reserved on the risk-taking side of things, which understandable given his position and what he sees, right? So he kind of pulled back and pulled away, and without that, we just didn't have the means to do it. So from that point, I was even hungrier to do it. And it was like, this is going to fucking happen. I don't know when, but it's going to fucking happen. So what did I start doing right at that point? I started buying equipment for my garage. And I started with small pieces I could find on Marketplace that I just knew were quality pieces. Then I would swap those out, and I started, instead of selling the stuff, putting it in a storage unit. And I ended up making a really, really solid garage gym that most people would be like, holy fuck, you have this in your garage? Because half the pieces that were in my garage are actually on the den gym floor now, and you would never know it.
A lot of equipment there. Way too much.
Yeah, and then, like I said, I ended up getting to a point that I had 2 storage units full, plus my garage full, and I was doing it. And then it was one of those things where there's somebody who owns a gym in like the Edmonton and surrounding area and wanted to partner with me, and it seemed like a good opportunity again. Finance-wise, they had what was needed and so forth, but it just, again, I don't think fostered the vision that I wanted. So it didn't come to fruition, and I ended up just going to Ty and Dale because they, like I said, they were guys I had worked with at this point for a long period of time. They worked on my team as coaches. I trusted them. We had a good relationship, and they were passionate. And I was like, hey, I'm doing this. Do you guys want in on this? Because this is something that I think we could do bigger and better together. It's that saying, right? If you wanna go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Oh my God. I'd love to break off a 5-minute conversation on that. This me against the world bullshit, it's glamorized in movies and social media. No, the right team will conquer. You may do well. A team will absolutely conquer.
100%, man. And the reality is I couldn't handle the load that I have right now between my other businesses and the gym without the partners I have. And in other businesses too, right? I don't have any of these by myself. So yeah, that was just one of those things that realistically they were like, yeah, we want to do it. And at that point of time when they said, yeah, we made it happen. And then that's when the Arkansas stuff and everything started happening. But it was a quick learning curve. But like I said, once it took off, it took off. So that's kind of, I guess, a long drawn out way of saying that's how it was bred and what came to fruition. And it was just something, my personal passion for bodybuilding and fitness drove that. But then there was a bunch of things along the way that just kind of put wood on the fire.
Okay. So was that like a lifelong thing, or like just to go specifically to this? So that was like 2017, 2018 you really started leaning towards, and then 19 was the first
So
try?
I started my bodybuilding journey in 2016 was my first show. And that was around the time I was also working in that corporate world setting. So I would say about 2017, 2018 is when I had left that. At that point in time for me, all I really cared about was bodybuilding and making money and training people. And that's when it really started to pick up what I seen on the gym floor. We had the conversations in Good Life. That's where this business idea, the original one, it was actually called Lion's Den.
Oh, that was you guys.
Yeah, Lion's Den
was
was
us. You guys
us.
had that.
We had a social media page. We had good graphics and stuff.
This. I'm learning shit.
We were
right
very,
now.
very close to launching. That was us, yeah.
Because when I heard that, I was like, wait, isn't that what Ken Shamrock called his jiu-jitsu? Wow,
yeah,
okay.
so we had everything ready to go, basically. And it was just a couple decisions away and a couple pays away from making it happen. Realistically, we had to pay for the equipment, secure the lease, and it was done. And everything was ready to go until that godforsaken word happened, and it changed everything, but for the better now. If I had to go back and make the same decisions I did, I would, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know a little bit of my story, and my biggest climbs were during the pandemic when, like you said, the financial people, they got scared. 100%. Anyone that worked with a bank shut their funding down. We stepped in. I'm not even going to talk about what kind of numbers it is. That's for a different show. Wealth can be created in 3 or 4 years, and he just explained that so last year you guys started, it was 7 years in the making.
Yep.
And you just pushed through.
Yep.
Cool. All right, so I hope that answered the question. This one's, you two are, prefaced, I posted saying that we're doing the questions and Braeden would be on. You two are the dream team example of what online influencers should be. No bullshit, just fitness and finance. So I guess that's just kind of a statement, but thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys.
He's better with people, so I think that's more towards him. I do not influence people.
I don't know. You do. You'd be surprised, brother. You'd be surprised. Look when people are entering your draws and stuff and showing up when it's not just a quick online entry. You influence people too, man.
All right, then we'll take that as a thank you.
And we also hear people say it at the gym, right? So we have that community. People talk to us, and you are definitely so.
Well, all right. Well, I'm not good at compliments, but I appreciate that one. Have you ever asked one of your clients to stop using? Obviously, this would be PEDs, and if so, why?
Yeah, I have. A couple different scenarios I can think of, and I'm not going to specifically say anything about a person, but there's a lot of things to look at when you're taking PEDs, right? And in my world, a lot of what we do comes down to genetic potential. Okay. And you have to weigh what are the risks versus the rewards. And sometimes people feel like the reward is super high when you're a coach and you do this long term and you see where that person is heading and you see what that physique is actually capable of. Sometimes I believe the reward isn't worth it. And then we do things like, for myself personally, I monitor athletes' blood work and so forth. And like I said, we talked about ceilings in the financial world. I do believe for a lot of people, and this might sound very contrary to what everyone believes and has been told, there are ceilings to the physique for a lot of people. Unfortunately, some people get dealt a deck of cards that genetics just isn't in the window. And for bodybuilding, poor genetics can only take you so far. And I do believe that hard work can outlast good genetics many, many times. But there's also a lot of people who just, like I said, would be better off investing their time and keeping their health in a good place, especially when you start to see health going a certain direction.
Yes, yeah.
And that's where I pull the pin. I'm never going to tell somebody they don't have what it takes. I'll tell somebody, hey, I'll be open and honest with them and tell them, hey, we're not built like a god, and there's going to be people that are built better than us. But if you work hard and we stay healthy over the long term, you can probably outlast these people and you can build something pretty cool here, something you'll be damn proud of. Whereas on the other side of things, right, you get those people that might have very similar genetics, but their health genetics, which is a real thing, the way they respond to PEDs,
Absolutely.
How their health gets affected by PEDs looks very different than the other person we were talking about. And if cholesterols are consistently high and blood pressure is very, very high, and you need to take all these medications to manage this stuff just because you're choosing to put a needle in you to look better, and you really aren't looking that much better in a shorter period of time or a long period of time, at some point in time you have to have the conversation with somebody like, hey, this isn't healthy and not going to get where you think you're going to end up, and I don't want you in the grave, and definitely don't want that on my hands, so we should consider options.
So it's not necessarily a performance result from it. It's if you're going to say, or you probably don't tell them not to. You'll just give them the information and hope they make the most educated solution.
Absolutely,
and
I will get to a point too, and this has happened before. And actually, I won't say names again, but somebody that I worked with that this has happened to, and I had to remove them from my roster because it was a very large emphasis on PED usage. And for me, it was like, hey, this isn't about the drugs. This is about the drugs are a sprinkle on top, and there's a lot of other variables here, and time being one of those variables. And if you're not willing to put the time in, and you just think the drugs are going to get you there quicker and shorter, and that's your focus, it's not going to work, and I'd rather not get paid by you to work with you.
Yeah.
Even if you have potential, right? So yes, there are people that don't have the genetic potential that might have health issues, but there's also people that have a wrong vision in their head, and I refuse to work with those people because those are the people that want to get in your world, the get rich quick type,
yes,
right? It's the get rich quick, but your body is the money. Your body is the currency, and that just doesn't work. There's always going to be a trade-off for something there. And when it comes to your health and your future when you're 25 years old and you don't know what it looks like to be 30, 35, 40 years old, and you might not get there because of the decisions you make now, that's not something I'm willing to roll the dice with.
It'll inevitably make you look bad anyways.
100%. And that does affect me in my business, right, when that happens.